When he does, they let him pull it all the way up. They'll work with it.
We're gonna got the rocket.
Yeah, they're gonna do.
Now we'll be here and go for a rocket.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, for that, and I was like, I sent you to hang back now, I was like, when did you get it? She goes, an hour ago, I was like, we'll play tomorrow. So they had a meeting, yesterday. So he's all chunked it up.
Lumberjack here a little bit. I'm not here. Yeah. I show up.
I'm sure they're, here, you need one? I'll give you a sharp.
The only use that, like it's a garnish around, like the fill in the buffet. You know.
I don't really.
I feel better sitting here.
And I said, it is.
Blending in.
You're not gonna move and share.
Breaks down, you can always spend it. You don't taste it. You might taste it. You know, no matter what you do.
Why can't they? Now the data is here.
You know,
That's what I'm waiting for.
just in time.
I only let my kids home when I was filming.
But now you see that second term.
Hey, you can buy the team. Do what?
You need to form the chief.
Yeah, yeah.
To drive
Here,
your-
let me, oh,
Whoa.
hello. Hey, let me bring this planning workshop to order, just to make it official, the planning workshop of the city council of the city of Nassau Bay to be held on Monday, January 9th, 2023 at 6 p.m. in conjunction with the live stream committee. And it's in this council chamber, the hall, 1800 Space Park Drive, Suite 200, Nassau Bay, Texas. And son, this is awfully loud.
Oh, one of the gentlemen.
You know, I think we're gonna break people's earphones.
I think that was that was the MC.
It's true, but there's probably somewhere in between.
Oh, wasn't that the MC's mic for the Christmas party? Wasn't it the MC's mic for the Christmas party?
Yeah, I mean, it's better than it usually is, the office day.
How about that? How about that? A little bit higher. A little bit higher.
There you go.
How's that? Is that good? Yeah, good. Okay, let's move forward to call to order and roll call members. I believe everybody is here except for Don Matter. And I'll make a comment about Don. I've been getting quite a bit of text from the family, so I can kind of update everybody at the beginning of city council. When we move into a citizen's request for hearing before city council, if anybody wants to speak beforehand. Going once. Going twice. 3 times. Citizens hearing is closed, and then moving into the planning workshop. And I guess that is, city council, the live stream task force, and city staff will conduct a planning session and consider to take possible action on the city's live and on-demand broadcast by the city council meeting on the city website, social media channel, Nassau Bay Public Access, Channel 16, and any other avenues deemed appropriate. Let me chime in here because I talked with Ashley a little bit here. We're trying to look at moving things forward because we've kind of been, and on my terms, and this is probably an unfair term, we've been kind of languishing. We've got a lot of things that we have that I think need to make a decision. I think this is a future that we can't avoid, that there's going to be digital oversight, digital communication that is just going to be a fact of life. And as we talked before, you fast forward 20 years and what we're doing here is going to seem like old, real old school. So in that sense, I wanted to have us both here so we can actually come to maybe some decisions so that we can either put up the money, go on a path or things like that, and just expedite our ability to enhance, because I personally believe, I think I'm even on record, Sandra, of saying I think our system sucks, and I'd like to see it enhance that. So with that, I don't know if anybody else has any comments. If not, I'll turn it over to Paul or Tom or Ashley, and we will commence.
Great, thank you, Mayor. As you know, our task force has met several times for a while now to try and come up with the best solution for us to live stream with a couple things in mind. We have funds that are dedicated to us for our public access channel 16. Those funds come from Comcast, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom?
Yes.
And they can only be used for hardware. So we are limited in our ability to use those for services, but we can use those for things like updating the system that not everyone's a fan of when it comes to our microphones and even just the way we're sitting up here, if we wanted to go that far.
Visuals
So, right.
aspect of it too.
And those funds have been sitting there a while. They've been accumulating and they will continue to be given to us if we prove that we can keep streaming on channel 16. So the goal here has to meet those requirements if we want to keep receiving that funding. We have also wanted to make sure that it was easy for our citizens to watch from home. I think if COVID showed us anything, that was very well received, that our citizens wanted at different outlets to be able to view our meetings, view committee meetings, not just council meetings. So without going backwards and with what we've seen many cities doing for the better part of 2 decades now, we wanted to look into our options for live streaming from this room and even potentially from the conference room. We have narrowed it down to 2 options, and I'm going to let Tom speak to each option individually. They do have pros and cons, so I'm hoping after that we can go over to our board and really brainstorm some pros and cons here so that we can all, be in on this together. And that way council can help, give us your input, and then we can get a direction chosen and move this forward so that our citizens can receive the service and we're in line with the current digital age, I would say. So
One last thing I'll add is this council did an excellent job of restructuring our budget so that we had about $500,000 of discretionary funds, of which I believe we only spent about 70, 80. We're gonna probably spend a little bit more coming here for an interceptor. I believe our agenda that's gonna take place. But we've done those expenditures, but it says we have funds to invest here. So I would ask people to look to the future around what makes sense for the long term rather than just what we can do now. Because if there's a time to invest, it's not. Okay, and with that. All right.
Hear me all right? Excuse my voice, trying to get over a little cold. Hope I make it through. All right, get that up there. So I'm just gonna review where we've been the last year. You can go to the next slide. This task force was created back in January of last year. We've had several meetings, both Zoom and in person. We used a couple of different meetings last year to test out a couple of different solutions. And there were failures, and that's good because that's what the test, right? But we did review and we investigated into the failures. We found out where the issues were. Then I met with a couple of different vendors and got proposals for hardware to live stream and record the council meetings. And I reviewed both of those. We went over both those proposals back in December. I think we have a good idea of which one. I know which one I'd like to see, and I think we got a general consensus from all that were there. I think we're all on the same page. So some of the things that were pointed out that we needed to address is we needed to design a system with multiple cameras to get better video of people. That'll require a video switching device. I'm not going to get real into the weeds on actual piece of hardware and stuff like that. I'm just giving you an overview. That will require some kind of video switching and a person to operate it. Have quotes on 2 different systems, and we'll talk about them a little bit today. We need direct audio and video input into the current council system, the current AV system in the council chambers. That's included in one of the quotes. We need a permanent solution to allow outside users with direct access. Basically Zoom. Zoom has become a big part of these meetings, and actually it's the hardest part to deal with. It's what's caused a lot of our problems with feedback and different things. So we need to look at different streaming outlets instead of Facebook. And actually tonight, or as of right this moment, we are using YouTube just to test and see how it goes. So we have to continually stream on channel 16. This meeting is not being streamed on 16 as it is right now. The system needs to be permanently installed so we don't have wires and stuff all over the place, and there's tear down and setup. The tear down and setup of the different things that we did takes time, both before and after. And cords and all that looks trashy, quite honestly, and it's unsafe. So the ABI quote talks about adding on future inputs, outputs, and some more flexibility. When using Zoom, I recommended that we use the downloadable app instead of the browser. We've been doing that. That seems to work better. We need to be using wired Ethernet instead of wireless. We're doing that here now. And then we need to use the Comcast phones. In order to get those Comcast phones, we have to be streaming something on that channel. Right now, if you have a Comcast cable in your house and you go to channel 16, you're gonna see a camera that's mounted on the roof of this building. And it broadcasts this intersection and the Esplanade's, and it's got the shuttle in the background and that kind of stuff. That's there all the time. So we are sending a signal out. If we don't send a signal out over for a certain amount of time, you lose the funds. So.
You know what that criteria is, when you actually lose the funds?
Not using the channel.
Is there you said there was a criteria, is
You
that
have
like 10 minutes, is it a week?
Oh,
A month?
I would say 3-6 months probably, eventually. They finally came back to us. Thereafter, after we moved, we had some issues with the equipment. They came out, replaced it all. So it has all the newer equipment. That was, I don't know, a couple years ago. Then there was nothing being streamed on it. We started getting emails. You need to start using this channel, and that's when we came up with the idea of integrating. That's what we do as social. And there was an earlier part where we had a dedicated computer back there. And it has a certain piece of software called vMix. The video production type software allows you to schedule shows and you can change inputs and all that. We were using that and we just ran like certain videos, just moved them. I think there was like 6 of them and they were just moved. I don't know how many people actually watch the channel. I don't even know how many people even know it exists. So I don't know the usage. I don't know if you can even get that, but it might be, I'm not sure. Yeah, probably with Comcast.
Thank you.
Okay, so the current solutions we looked at, the first one was from a company called AVI SPL. And I went to them because they're the people who put the current AV system in this room and in our conference room. And just so you know, that was put in here in 2014 when the building was built, and it has not been touched at all since. Other than the addition of the hearing impaired equipment, we're using the same technology we were when we bought it. So it's 9 years old. All right, so their solution includes all the hardware, software, and installation. There are no services and there are no annual costs. Once they put the system in, it's ours. It adds new AV inputs, not only up here, but in the back of the room, just for future expansion if we ever need it. It provides a system for streaming and recording 2 types of sessions. So when we do our council meeting, everybody's this way. There'd be a camera mounted on the ceiling that would capture the entire desk. When we do our workshops, we're out there, so there would be a second camera that would be mounted on the back wall here, and we would be able to get them. Plus, there would be microphones mounted in the ceiling that would allow that to be streamed as well without having all those wires. We had to run the wires, had mics up and all that stuff. It didn't work that great. So provides for all that. It uses our current iPads for control of the streaming. They will all get upgraded. All the recordings will be kept on site on a server here. They will be ours. And we can do with what we want. We can upload them and play them on that vMix, YouTube or Facebook or whatever else comes up or down this pipe years from now. We can provide links to watch it on Facebook or YouTube from the city website. All the streaming will be controlled by in-house. The iPad actually, the iPad will get all new software. The main processor for this entire system will be replaced. We'll add different inputs and outputs. We'll have, if anybody's familiar with the barcode, there's a system you can use where you actually take a little dongle and you plug it into your laptop and it's all wireless. That is part of the new system. There is no indexing included, but Sandra has a solution for that, and she can talk about that here in a few minutes. There are no annual service fees. There are no need for any kind of bid process because we're under that threshold. And they've already pre-bid it using the Texas DIR and the contract numbers down there at the bottom. We still wouldn't have a formal solution for the Zoom user. They can't provide that, but what we would do is we would change up some of the inputs that are on the current system, and we would actually create an input just for a laptop that would put the Zoom system in our system instead of trying to rebroadcast it and having two different systems running at the same time. That's when we went into the feedback problems. Next. So the swag,
Sorry, what was the cost on that other?
I'll get to the cost
Oh,
of everything.
okay.
Just something.
Question before you move on, you don't mention around how many people or how many resources are needed to operate.
One person from the web, it's been explained to me. I would have this iPad or Sonder or whoever, we would bring up that part of the iPad. You press a button to turn it on, you press a button to turn it off. It'll all be programmed
So
in.
you don't need people.
No, not unless you want it. I mean, you could dedicate a person maybe to move cameras around, but you're only gonna have one and it's gonna get all of you. So there's no real reason to start playing with cameras. And
Trying to move away from that.
Right.
It's-
And it is, we didn't want to commit a person to have to do something. But because of the way this would be programmed in, it seems like it's literally just a matter of pressing buttons on and off. Because they'll program the restaurant system, that's who built it. They'll be able to program all that in here, so it's just a matter of boom, boom. There's not a lot of hookups and telling it the inputs, all that. So it hopefully is a much simpler solution with a very minimal impact on a person.
And so the live streaming goes straight to our city website?
Yes, and we'll get to that here. in a
Okay.
second.
And this in-house user, as you just said, will not necessitate creating a new position
No,
to handle that.
there's no way to- it would have to be, probably be something. Because she's running it now, and I don't know if you saw all the different things she has to do before this meeting starts.
This would be simple.
I don't, yeah, if there are any more people she can plug into that, thing, you know, there's
Exactly.
5 of them in there. So this eliminates all that.
Okay.
Be done right here.
One last question on the ABI, SLR.
AVI, SBI.
Yeah. Are there the ability to be able to digitally record minutes so that you have voice to written capability?
They don't provide that service.
They don't provide that, so that would be something that we would
We would
have.
have to do outside if we even could, and Sandra will talk a little bit about the description part of it at the end. We have a system that can do that, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit. We'll get in more detail on that exactly. So the swag, which when we started this process was its own family company, now they're actually part of another company. They've actually changed twice. That system is one camera and it would be mounted up here. And their hardware is all proprietary, meaning you use their services, you use their hardware. You don't use their services, the hardware is paid for. It includes annual service fees because they run it all from remote, I think from Dallas. They come in on the internet, they turn it on, they record it, they do the transcribing, all that stuff. But you pay for that. And we'll get to the cost on that here in a minute. It includes the e-system for in-depth meetings, which you were just asking about. It will also stream on channel 16, Facebook, or YouTube, or wherever we want to stream it. They'll provide links to watch our stuff on Facebook from the website, which you can do that as well. All the recordings are kept on their servers. We don't have copies of it here. There is a cost for their equipment. You have to buy it. It's not like a lease or a rent. While you have their services, you buy their equipment and then you buy their services. There's a cost for that. And then there's also a separate cost for their services. This option will require going out to bid. I'll get to that here in a minute due to the higher costs. Even if we did this system, we would still need to go back to AVI SPL to do some of the upgrades on the processor and stuff like that. So we would spend this money plus additional funds to get our system upgraded. So
When you come back to that question, when you mention there's buying equipment and the buying of the services, but the software is the brain that makes it all come together.
that's the equipment you would buy from them.
Is equipment fairly generic that if a year afterwards you wanna buy a different brain, to still be able to use that equipment?
Not the swag equipment.
So how is it different?
Well, the swag, there it's all proprietary. They build the units, they program the units. Another person could probably hack into it and do whatever, but it's not, it's made to work with the services they provide. It's not made for me to use it or for you to use it or.
And so if one of their cameras goes down or something happens with some of their equipment, they replace it. Is that part of the maintenance or?
Well, there's warranty periods on equipment. So that year, I would imagine there would be a warranty on the equipment. I don't know the exact details.
But we still keep getting money from Comcast to buy
Yes.
more equipment every year anyway, so that could factor into it.
Yes. Yes.
So what is the year of service including, when they say year of service? We're gonna get to that. Okay, sorry.
We're looking at costs right now.
Okay.
So costs, ABI SPL, the total cost for all the equipment installs, support, and maintenance is $49,957.73. That quote is about 60 days old, so it could change. Swagit, which is now part of this new company, Granicus, the equipment cost at the time, and that again is 2 months old, and they're now part of this Granicus company. Just for the equipment and the install, it is $36,980. Services. So there's a couple different things you have to pay for. What's called the AVR service. So this is to run the complete system remotely. That's 25 meetings per year. If you go over 25, you pay an additional $300 per meeting. For 1 year, at the time we did this, it was at $15,426. For them to set up the streaming service, which was another option, and the sound search option that we were talking about earlier, that's another $6,600 per year. So the total service just for the Swagit system for a year is $22,000 on this quote. Total Swagit cost for equipment and 1 year of service is $59,006 approximately. So you can see why the cost goes up. Given the cost a little bit more, I talked to Sheila, so we want to get this out there and make sure that everybody understood how this works. General fund, right, currently there's $20,000 in the budget for maintenance, operations, contract services for live streaming. You know, put that in there during the budget process. The special revenue fund, which is over $50,000 in Comcast funds, is available for hardware infrastructure used to produce content for Channel 16. So if we buy any of this equipment with that money, we got to use it to stream, and we would. These funds can be utilized. Use of these funds is contingent on broadcasting council needs. If the total amount of funds, hardware plus services spent with a vendor exceeds $50,000 in a fiscal year, then that project must be formally bid. That's where this bid thing is going to be. If we use a vendor who is formally bid services, ABI SPL, they done it with Texas DIR, Department of Information and Resources, essentially. If we use the vendor, that fully, this would be sufficient, but it would still, she said, it still would be advisable to get quotes from comparable vendors, just to say we at least look.
Either one of these, be it from Swagit or the other, via corporate purchasing system.
Swagit isn't on a DIR. They're saying that they're sole source, which is questionable when it comes to getting quotes and things. If we wanted to do a system like that, then we would have to put a bid package together and put it out there. And take just to do the bid process, probably 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Then once you decide, you're looking at 8 to 12 weeks to get the system in place, no matter which system you go with. You got to order parts, you got to get them in here, you got to schedule closing the room there, installing it all, training, testing. Both companies said 8 to 12 weeks on that. Okay. Next one, I think. This is where I'm gonna let Sandra speak about how we're streaming and how she can do the transcribing and all that stuff. Well, I use Sandra.
All right, so right now we're currently utilizing Facebook where we have a Zoom video, which is on right now. I use the Zoom video to stream it to Facebook. I use the Facebook feed then to embed it on our website, so you can see kind of how the process works. Another option that we were talking about, and I mentioned to the mayor this past week, rather than using Facebook, we can also use our Zoom video like I am currently using now, stream it to our YouTube channel, which is currently running at this moment, and the YouTube feed can be embedded on our website. And so I know that the transcription or the kind of having some more immediate feedback after the council meeting. I did a sample with our November 14th council meeting. Depending on the length of the meeting, I know that's kind of hard to see, but that is their transcription, and you can kind of see they've even gone into detail where it says Mayor Johnson, Paul McLarty, and approximately $250 per meeting, depending on the length of the meeting, how many hours the meeting goes. Also, we can create a dedicated city webpage that we can put city council meetings on our website.
And these transcription services are for either system or?
Yes,
just
they could be for either system.
So does Swagit carry those services?
Swagit offers,
Swagit does it on their own and provides it. We wouldn't.
At a similar cost or no?
That was in
Which
there.
come as a part of
No, if you say it was 6,600.
a year?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was in the cost already.
That's
Yeah,
6,600.
what did that cost?
But is that
Inclusive, not.
how many meetings is that, 25 meetings off, 5600?
But it
Yes.
was in what
Yeah.
Tom already.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then if every meeting after that, you would add on more for
That's
each.
correct.
Okay.
Anything over 25, I think it was $300 per meeting.
Okay.
Now, with the Swagit system, the way they do their transcription, as you're watching the video, it literally moves through the agenda. And you can also get your transcription. So if you just want to know what happened on item 2A, you click and it video takes you right there.
yeah.
Versus Go Transcript would be,
Go transcripts is a little bit more clunky than compared to what you're just.
well, it would just be a little more old school where you get transcript and
Yeah,
the video.
After the meeting.
after the meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, in the Swagger system, it's like live.
Well,
transcribing.
Instantaneous.
yeah, it's relatively instantaneous.
Okay.
And then, I know the
There it
mayor
is, right
talked
there.
a bit about, League City. And so this is League City's council meeting, which is hosted by Swagit. And you can see that they have a dedicated, webpage where you can see each agenda item and how it relates to the video itself. But then League City also chooses to push their video feed live onto their Facebook page. And I did want to go ahead and show you, if you don't mind.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So why are only two selected?
Those are just the two options that make the most sense for us to achieve the problem.
One is the previous area, one that was, that we're going to use here, that you would have to update and if we're going to update. The other one is one that you want to pay for a service on top of that.
Yeah, and I could try to reach out to a second company that does something similar to Swagit. I forget the name of it, but they were switching over to a different company. And that, on their website, it was saying that the hardware that they would use wasn't going to be available for until the future and the dates. So I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
If we're gonna do bids, if the Swagit system or that technology is what we're gonna go after, then we'll put it out to bid and these other companies. will.
So if we were to choose Tom's option of the ADI system, this is how it would work. We would have the system go out to our YouTube page, which it's live right now. I'm not gonna press play so that it doesn't make any volume. Here's our Nassau Bay television page. There are 4 people watching. There are no comments. I use this embed feed and it's currently live on our website. I won't press play, but so that the volume doesn't come on, but this is how we can kind of create a dedicated page of just our city council meetings.
And you said that League City has their own webpage that they
So-
go to?
Through Swagit.
Swagger gives you your own page, I assume.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Can I ask you a question? So the ADI system, we would have to have servers here, we store the data here. When you use Swagit, do you use their servers and they serve the data there?
Correct.
That's
So
huge.
for here, we would not have it. on-
Okay, so they would store it on their server, okay.
Tom, I have 2 questions. One on Swagit. Do you have any concern to the fact that it has changed twice?
We do this, Swagit started out.
No regular deal.
Someone buys them out and the next guy buys them out. But I've also seen where that happens, like currently with the CAD software that our police department is using. It's been bought by so many companies that it's just another little thing to have. The fire software that we use to run to put all of our calls COVID, same thing has happened. And every time that the service degrades. Where, oh, well, after this date, we're not updating that. So, not to say that that's gonna happen here. This is a hot technology. But you know,
So just real quick, is that what you've gone to is you've gone to the city of League City's official website. This is embedded inside of their webpage.
It actually, what it does, it takes you to it opens up a new browser.
Right.
So here's like
right.
cities,
You're embedded inside of it.
and
So the city of League City is not spending bandwidth,
On their
from their own server.
Yeah.
actually, look at the URL. Look at the URL.
Yeah.
So it would be easy for us to just take that URL and just put it on our NassauBay.com website.
Or
That's
that's what they-
Raising your hand.
Swagit.com is what it would say.
right now, the
So
city
you can embed
website,
it on the city website if you need to.
well, right now, the city website is not hosting any video. It's always being embedded or linked or,
So you could embed this link on the city website.
yes, that's what they've
Yeah,
done.
okay.
They've
So you could embed that on our NassauBay.com website. From like the swag website.
Embed the video or just the.
Well, the link will be embedded into she said we can do that, because you know, our software is a little bit antiquated on the NassauBay.com, but she said they can take a page and you just embed it inside that page, so it looks like it's our own video, but actually it's just the embedded link from Swag.
Can you, I'm thinking this is the League City Texas.gov, that's their official government website.
Correct.
That is, and when you went to the meeting one with the list of them there, that's the official city website, not this one.
So it actually takes you to a swag.
Right, but where you went to this one right there, that takes you to the Swagger one.
Yes.
Right, so I just want to make sure that this is hosted on their official city government website.
These links are hosted on swag.
If you go back,
Yeah,
Sorry,
that's,
that-
the
that's what
link
I'm
to
saying.
this is.
the link to this is embedded inside of that,
Yes,
Yeah, so it's just the link to
the
that.
official website.
Yes.
I have a question.
Just like this.
Tom, with AVI, they do not provide the service. So how difficult is it to find someone to provide the service? Do you already have someone in mind? Is that going to be a complicated process to find someone to provide service?
Well, if we did the AVI SPL, all that hardware would be here.
Right,
All this, the software would be right here. You
Right.
would run the show, what I'll call it, this little iPad. And basically, it would sit in front of Sandra's desk, she would turn it on, it would start recording, streaming, because all this work is done in the background on the processor that put it in rack. It's programmed to do that. I press that one button, just like now, in this little thing, I press the button, I can change inputs. I can do whatever to the system right here. We would upgrade this where it would have the streaming button on it as well.
so then we don't have to have anybody provide service. All right,
But you wouldn't have the sound search. The transcribing would be done after the meeting. You'd still have you can zoom, you can stream it to put the YouTube embeds on anything. And she can set up a dedicated, well, there it is. She already has a dedicated web page on our site that is embedded in, and then we create the archives there. Plus, we could have I'll export the video from the meeting. We would put it on our channel 16, so you'd be able to watch it live. But if you missed it, you can sit and look and wait until it goes through. And it'll just sit there for a month, playing that video or whatever, you play all of it.
We used to do that just with, pictures.
Right, and now you can do it with video.
Wait a minute, hang on, Charles has been waiting. Patient.
So, Mossman asked a question about the contracts changing. The real issue is the rigidity in the agreement, right? And so once we lock into, I'm not advocating for one over the other. I'm just saying that once we lock into a SAGIT agreement, then, and any movement outside of that agreement requires a wholesale change for us, and we're locked in lockstep with them. And so as technology changes, as companies prevail is better than Swaggit, and we would not have the option to move with them without a major change. And then also we're locked into a continual payment to them. It's kind of a software as a service agreement. So every year we're continuing to pay them. And so those things are more concerning than the fact that they're merging with other companies, because as Tom said, that happens all the time. Yeah.
Thank you.
And then one other thing, Jim, she mentioned about why we picked these two. Well, we have a lot of local market study data that says people are using Swagit. So that kind of bubbled up to the top as one to take a look at. Plus, it makes sense to start with where you are. If we can upgrade what we have for a limited cost and get everything we want, well, then we win, right? And without adding a new position and that sort of thing.
Well,
Just- yes.
One of the things I thought when I went with ABI SPL is there are certain parts of our system. Actually, our wireless microphone system is illegal to operate because the frequencies they use. Just remember, this was put in 9 years ago. FCC changed those frequencies a couple of years ago. It's actually illegal for us to be using those frequencies. So that system needs to be replaced. Anyway, that's included in this. It upgrades.
I hear
I got a follow later. I think that there's another option that when we were looking at it was the click share system, the barcode. I don't know if you're all familiar with that, the little puck. That would be a big upgrade for us. You wouldn't be plugging in this kind of stuff. It basically plugged this little dongle. We used it at the fire station, it was awesome. And we replaced the main processor, which controls the whole thing. We're actually the two major firmware upgrades behind, because we have not done any work to this current system. So there's an advantage to the ABI and SPL because we get to do all those upgrades. Now, if we don't want to do the ABI SPL, we want to do a Swagit service, or we want to put it out to bid, those are still things that I'm going to come back to you and say, these are things we need to do. So.
I have another question. So with the ABI, you're saying that we would have our own servers. Who would maintain those servers here if we own the servers for ABI? So you would have to take care of the servers.
Yeah.
So there's any issue with servers.
There's
Whereas with Swagit, they have a server elsewhere that's part of their maintenance.
There's a
They
rack.
take care of it.
a rack component of hardware that they put in, but yes, they control it, and it's their software, it's all
They've
proprietary.
done on the cloud.
There's some here, and there's some on their cloud, which is not shared, they're not gonna share their.
No,
But they always want
I'm
security.
looking at it security standpoint, because state of the art, security. As much as we want to try to maintain security on our servers, we're going to both anything bank or server.
Security.
So I'm just saying,
Yeah.
that's the best practice is be up on the cloud.
And our servers would just be used to put it into the VMix, right, and then permanently,
And we would have the record.
right, keep it as a record. The
Sort of like-
people viewing on the website would be streamed through YouTube, so that bandwidth would come from YouTube, not from
Right.
us.
So if, let's say we have something like if we wanted to do some of the Parks Committee meetings where we had to live stream them. And so somebody has to be there with the iPad to start it and do that. But what about the Swagit system? Does
You would
anybody
call-
from city staff have to be there in order for us to do that? Or do we just set it up in advance and it just starts running?
You notify them that you're having a meeting, and then they schedule it, and they want to do it, but you pay them.
So you wouldn't have to have something where like,
You wouldn't need anybody.
you wouldn't need anybody, so that's another benefit of that, I think, because you wouldn't have to have more staff to come and set it up for you.
Tom, didn't you say with the Swagit system, when we need to, I think, put additional costs for that second camera for Swagit?
If we go do a second camera, then we have to re-quote it, so
Because the one camera for Swagit was just
just this one.
angled.
We
So
need
the other meeting,
one camera system, if we want to do that workshop setup, like I talked about. With the second camera, then we have to go back and then we get in the bid that out, so it's gonna be cost to go for.
We have to bid it with them anyway, don't we? If we
If you do
go,
the swag, you're gonna have to go out to bid this.
you didn't know, you guys never got a price on like what an extra cable would be.
Oh, I actually had a price for 4 cameras at one time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was
How much
very-
was that?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I think they were like 10,000 a camera.
10,000 camera, okay.
We're
that's-
talking about state of the art PTZ 4K cameras.
So you really can see
Oh, yes,
distance. And without the wide lens back.
right.
Right, and that.
We were trying to shoot from a camera that's 30 feet back there.
Correct.
This camera is gonna probably be about right there in the middle, and it's wide, and it's gonna get your face a lot clearer than from back there, or even clearer than that.
I'll miss the hello effect.
No, it might be able to pick up the screen, but normally when you're shooting a video camera at a TV, this is.
Yeah, yeah.
If I can, real quick, that Charles Ruffey pointed out the term on the contract, so
with something like swag, is that an annual or is it a 3 year, is it a 5 year? What is the?
1 year.
Okay, so 1 year, okay, 1 year contract. So then any upgrades that we have, would have to be negotiated follow on from there, potentially looking at that. And then there's a follow on cost for additional meetings above and beyond the 25 that you got there. You guys are gonna do that. Okay.
And then the other thing I think I asked before, they said like, okay, this amount of money was done for maintenance or annual services. Did they say what the service is for? Is that just maintaining the equipment if one of the cameras go down?
Yes, well, that's part of it.
And if one of the cameras went down on the other? Yeah. And what if the camera went down on the ADI system, then that would be you fixing it, right?
Yes, unless it's warranty, and then I would call it.
And you would call the warranty service, okay?
So she's gonna bring up the cost, the swag, the services that you're paying for. Broke down generally, to run the system remotely, 25 meetings, it's 15,000. You want you want it streamed, and you want to be able to do this, the search on the audio, the transcripting, it's another 6,600. For, on this quote, 22 total. I don't know if that's gonna change when I go back to the world, when we go out to bid, it could very easily change, which we've done back in November.
And that equipment cost would go up if we wanted a new camera, but again, that's from those funds, so it's not in the general fund servicing fee. And I think, Brian had something to say.
Yeah, well, more question actually. So let's just say let's just, assume, looks like we go with swag, okay? After, say, 2 years, we're already now 37 grand plus in the hole with equipment. Let's just say their service turns on. It's just not good anymore. We decide it's not the direction we want to go.
Alternative.
Yeah, so we're out that 37. Do we get a sell back on the equipment?
I know, they're not talking about buying it back when you didn't pay for their time, you buying it.
Do we even keep it?
Yeah, we, but it's price period.
Can't use it unless jailbreaks it.
So, yeah.
So we can't sell it, so we can't sell it to like another one of their customers if they were, like, say, that new person considering if we could resell it or anything like that?
Not to sound like smart, like, but would you want to buy a 2-year used system from somebody?
No, but I negotiate a buyback.
I would be smart.
Buyback, I like that.
I negotiate a buyback contract or something like that.
If they do it.
Well, the question is, if the questions are asked, that's to work out in the contract phase of dealing with it. I think there's room for all, in any contracts, you for negotiation.
And if you're gonna go out and bid, it's something.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just looking at this on the 25 meetings at 15,000. That was just the one-off for them to put this in. And it's just here's what it would cost us. It might be a bit different if it's competitive in regards to the bid that they would put in, I would imagine. But that's just a thought there.
Remind me again, the streaming service, is that to a certain amount of social media outlets or?
You choose, it would, I think he deals with, was we would stream it out to channel 16 and to either Facebook or YouTube.
Okay. And then from there, we would get the link or we would already have the link.
Yeah, it would embed like what Sandra showed you.
Okay.
So can I ask you a question on the Comcast? So if we have to use the funds for purchasing equipment and that, and let's just say hypothetically that there's going to be a redo of things here with microphones, stuff like that, and that might actually take out of the general funds. Why not swap the two? Where you're able to use those funds without them going away inside of the equipment that you put here and will be needed for this. And the funds will be used for procuring the other equipment from the general funds down there.
Or help me understand, I believe the Comcast funds are 30,000 per year,
Approximately.
not a one time.
But they're accrued right now, correct?
Yes, we haven't spent,
How much has been included right now?
I think it was 58.
58,000.
So that in my mind, I mean, we would have these funds to be able to do that. In addition, in any future years, you could use those funds to change out equipment.
Correct.
Also,
Yes.
at no real expense to the general fund.
Right.
And so that's where we're at.
So I think something important that we need to think about when we're looking at this is if people want to do more than just, because the basic flag to me seems like just council meetings, like special meetings every, might have 2 per month, at certain times of year. But if people want live stream of committee meetings and coffee with the city manager and mayor and that sort of thing, then I think that's gonna be really important in this decision, because that's gonna change the cost structure a lot, what we're doing. So I don't know if there's feedback on what we're trying to do here, if it's the bare minimum, if we're trying to just do.
I mean, if we asked them to quote us 50 meetings a year, would it be cheaper? Because, they usually you're scalable on things like that.
We could find
I
out.
would imagine.
That would be part of.
Like you say, hey, 100 meetings a year, what's that? And then they usually scale you on that, right? Because you're adding more, you get a cheaper price.
Correct.
That was
So right now you're looking
part of the RFQ.
Part of the RFQ, part of that we could say, like, we wanted extra meetings and then.
You're looking at, this gives you 2 per month, just imagine how many you want to do right now.
But
In
do
this
you,
month. So
do you need a copy with the city manager, index, searchable and transcribed?
No, you would just do it as a regular meeting.
Yeah, but so the other setup would be in such a way where you still just say, hey, Paul, push the record button. Yeah, everything's on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what the
I
two
personally like-
systems.
I personally like that option because I've never known this city to want to not have access to more and more information.
Yeah.
And I believe once you open this door and make it easier, one is they'll be able to have minutes. And one of the things I feel an obligation here is, I know our city secretary is overwhelmed with trying to keep up with the minutes for all the things, and there's a huge delay, which I think does a disservice to our citizens. And I also believe that it means blackmail type, and don't mean black, not black, it's bootleg type of minutes go out, which only have not a complete version. It's a subset, and I just don't think that's fair to the citizens. For that, I'd rather have instantaneous information.
And a lot of times I feel really guilty asking them to, can you please come over to my committee meeting and report it? Because some people can't make it or whatever, that they're here really late, and things like that. So that's another
I think that's
consideration.
a reason why Webster being, not Webster, League City being bigger, they use those indexing just because they have a broader group, and that ease of selection, I think, is a valuable benefit, at least where I sit.
Yeah, and Tom said it should just be one button to record, to start everything.
AVI SPL side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our
That
index.
one, yeah.
The other one,
Index
it's
and
all
being
up
able
on
to-
it.
There's no index.
Correct.
But then Sandra, so in order to have a proposal that could somewhat meet the niceness of the Swagit, Sandra found that that company that can do the transcript for $300 a
I
meeting
believe that could be done afterward
afterwards.
rather than.
I don't know that it's the Swagit do it real time.
So Swag is pretty much real time. And they also have for their closed captioning, similar to how Facebook and YouTube have their algorithm picks up on the closed captioning, then they come back in, use that and try to clean it up. 'Cause certain words, obviously, accents, things like that, words can kind of.
Having our city secretary do more higher value work than just transcribing print, to me is a real benefit for us, whatever system we do. That has a huge benefit.
Well, transcription services is important. And which way,
Correct.
I look at this and I would just say. The city has a bigger budget than we do. And that's the way I look at it. I look at what fits for what we need to do. And if there's a way that we can move forward in offsetting somehow cross-funding it, I think it's right to do this. Whichever the selection might be, granted, we'll decide.
Any other comments?
I would like to have one last thing. We live on the Gulf Coast. We get disasters, right? And then let's say we get a hurricane, hopefully not, that's way too much work, but if we want to have meetings, and there are special meetings that have to occur, declarations, disaster and stuff. If they don't want to work and they're shut down, then we don't have a service stream. That's okay. Once you depend on a service, they're not gonna say, oh yeah, we're gonna stay by when we're being funded. If you're probably gonna evacuate all of
Where are they located, where are their servers located
Dallas.
in Dallas?
That's where they run everything.
Breach of contract.
So they're not,
But,
they're not.
but
Yeah, usually they.
our internet is big. All the internet that's going on in this building, the fiber goes in the underground out. There's cables on the back here that once that tree snaps across them, you think that's a high priority to get our internet back up. Our fiber will probably still be up, but all this backbone stuff, I mean, it's just something to think about. When you depend on another service or a company to provide a service, you depend on how they operate. We can't control
We had
that.
that, I think, all this week, about with the internet that went down, it's gonna do some digging. And a week's worth of.
But won't that shut down both systems if we lost internet or both of
We have
them?
three different systems here. We have a, I call it city network, and then we have backup network, which is what she's on right now. I don't allow wireless on our city network. I don't allow external connections to our city network. Our city network just works in offices. This is a whole different network that's going on. Back to cybersecurity.
Anything else, Tom? Anything?
No, I'm good. Whichever you guys want to do.
Anything else on the committee that they, you know, from a
I wanna-
standpoint?
I want to just make sure I've got this summarized correctly. AVI is more our control,
Is our.
is our control.
Demands are control.
Swagat is their situation in Dallas, whatever's going on in Dallas.
You're paying for the.
AVI is less expensive. Swagat is less expensive.
Because we have to go out for, like, on this, we don't go, but that would be, that's just an estimate of what that pricing is. that we saw.
Okay, but AVI.
AVI,
as of right now-
AVI is a sole source, from what I understand, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Swag is saying their sole source on this type of service.
Gotcha.
We don't, we know that they're up.
Okay, yeah, okay.
so
Thank you.
And
as you understand it now, AVI is less expensive. Swagat would be more. The issue of transcriptions can be handled by outsourcing. Sandra just found that answer.
And the ABI quote includes upgrades to our system that have nothing to do with the streaming.
And that was gonna be my last comment. As fast as technology is moving and we're putting in this equipment and 16 months from now, it's antiquated.
3 years.
Yeah.
Whatever.
What's the?
Thank you.
Ashley, any more comments? Anything on the
I was just
committee?
gonna speak to Dr. Lawson's point a little bit more. Theoretically, given what we've researched so far, that the Swagat would require the costs are already allocated in the budget. We would probably go over that with the things we talked about tonight, but that would be general funds on an ongoing basis for service costs, because the Comcast funds can't be allocated to that.
Correct. Good point.
Could potentially simply be using Comcast funds for this if we go with the API
Right.
system.
Comcast funds, hardware,
So,
services, general fund, your tax dollars.
so that is something to consider. Thank you for bringing that up. And I just want to make sure that the rest of the committee has a chance to speak on any of the things that.
Good.
we've covered.
I'd like to hear from the committee what their preference was, because you come up with the
They've done the
two.
research.
I'm just curious from each individual, I'd like to hear what your thoughts are. I got your thought.
I'm always gonna go for doing our own thing. I'm not a big, depending on someone else to provide a service that we should.
I'm the same, I'm a DIYer too, though, so I don't know how much you wanna take into that, but I like the fact that we own the equipment, we can run it all the time. It should be simple enough to push one button, anybody can do it. You can have we know all the the committee chairs to say, hey, put record here and then stop it. When you're done, that's the intention, is that it's that simple.
Right.
To run it like you would everybody set up some meetings every day.
Still, like as a committee chair, I wouldn't necessarily need Sandra either. They would just give me the iPad,
Yeah,
I'd
exactly.
press it and then return it afterwards.
That's the full intention there. And then if it's one of those where you need it to be transcribed or whatever afterwards, and we say, send that file off for $300 and get the transcript.
I'm of the same opinion, but for a different reason. I really don't love the rigidity of what Swaggit brings to the table. Anytime a company can lock me in and force me to buy something from them and have it proprietary to where I can't do anything, then that's problematic for me. I know they've kind of cornered the market in this region. Other people have gone that way, but I don't think that's reason for us to go lockstep with them. We got a great system, but they've proven through the changes in their company affiliations that could all change overnight. And so I vote for going with what we have and having the control.
Me personally, I'm all for doing things ourselves in-house. Don't get me wrong, Swaggit has got some great things, you know, Cadillac system. But do we really need a Cadillac? Or is the regular Chevy going to get us to where we need to go and do everything that we need? That's really what it boils down to. Everything that we want, everything we need, we can do ourselves, and of course, obviously outsource for the transcribing, for the minutes and whatnot. And on top of that, as long as we maintain the equipment per the manufacturer's, specifications, this camera equipment can last us. We buy it, it lasts us for years. It's not just, a couple of years. If we change services, we've got to give it back or whatnot. This stuff can be as good 7, 8, 9 years down the road, as long as the equipment is maintained and still functions. It's just as good as anything. So I'm all for, doing things in-house with the API system.
And I would just add to that, I think when we started this, we were all a little enamored with the Swaggit system and what it can do. And to Councilmember Abby's point, we don't have League City's budget. And I think fiscal responsibility, especially when we're talking about implementing something that's going to be here for years to come, why not start with something we can fully control, use those Comcast funds that have been sitting there for a long time. And then still have Swaggit on the back burner as an option if we just feel like this is not meeting the goals that we had hoped to accomplish with less work on staff. And getting some good technical equipment in here that makes these meetings a little more easy to watch and Zoom. That would be an important thing, make sure. So that would, I think we're all in agreement with that. We're very far from where we started. But after really putting some power to this, and I have to give Tom a huge thank you for doing all the research and all the work on this. For that fact, but yeah, we've kind of come a long way on this, and I'm glad that we're here. We're going to be able to make some decisions and move forward.
We're basically, that's perfect. We're almost out of time, and we do have an agenda item to talk this on. Okay, so with that, are there any other questions, any other comment? Then I'm going to call the workshop to a close. 6:58.